Hey, sports card fans, it's John, Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. It's been a little while since I have done a player showcase video. The previous four that I have done all featured a Hall of Fame hitter. So I wanted to do a Hall of Fame pitcher. So I looked through some of my cards and decided to do a showcase on Jim Palmer. Now, I think Jim Palmer doesn't get as much hobby love or attention as he should. He was a great pitcher. In fact, one could argue maybe the best pitcher of the 1970s. Now, my showcase videos, I haven't built up my vintage collection enough that I have a complete player run of everyone. So I have a mixture of some of his playing day cards and a few post-playing day modern cards that are inserts that I have to show off. But before I turn the camera around and show off my Jim Palmer cards, I just wanted to give a little bit of a background on Jim Palmer's career. So Jim Palmer played entirely for the Baltimore Orioles from 1965 to 1967. I believe he was sent down to the minors in 1968, then came back up in 1969 and pitched until 1984. So 19 years in the major leagues. And Jim Palmer was the winningest major league pitcher in the 1970s. He had 186 wins in the 70s. He also won at least 20 games in 8 different seasons, won 3 Cy Young Awards, 4 Gold Gloves during the 1970s. His 268 career victories are currently an Orioles record. A 6-time American League All-Star, he was also one of the rare pitchers who never allowed a grand slam in any major league contest. I didn't know that. Palmer appeared in the postseason 8 times and was a vital member of 3 World Series champions, 6 AL pennant winners, and 7 Eastern Division title holders. He is the only pitcher in history to earn a win in a World Series game in 3 different decades, 60s, 70s, and 80s. He is also the youngest to pitch a complete game shutout in a World Series, doing so 9 days before his 21st birthday in 1966, in which he defeated Sandy Koufax in Koufax's last appearance. He was one of the starters on the last rotation to feature 4 20-game winners in a single season in 1971. He was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1990. Now, I actually met Jim Palmer once. It wasn't at a card show or sporting event. It was back in 1988. My parents and sister and I went out to California for I think it was maybe like a 2-week vacation to see my aunt who lived out in California. And on the way back, I believe we flew into either Detroit or St. Louis. And then from there, I think we were flying into Baltimore. So on that flight into Baltimore, as you board all planes, you typically pass first class seats, and then you get, to your own cheap seats. Well, as I was walking back to where our seats were, I just looked over to the side and I was like, okay. So we sat down. I said to my dad, "Hey, Dad, I think that's Jim Palmer." He says, "No, it's not." I said, "Yeah, I think that's Jim Palmer." He goes, "John, it's not Jim Palmer." I'm like, "Dad, I'm positive it is Jim Palmer." And so I'm like, boy, I would love to get his autograph. Well, I don't have a baseball. I don't have anything to sign. So I said, "Dad, did you have anything that I can have Jim Palmer sign?" And so he's looking through some of his stuff and he finds an index card. Now, it's the index card that on one side has the lines and the other side is blank. Well, he had written some notes or something on the one side with the lines, but if you turn it over so I'm like, hey, that's all I have. So I found a pen, probably got it from my mom. And I think we were taxiing or ready to take off or something, and the stewardess came by. And I said, "Excuse me." So this was 1988. I was 16 at the time. And I said, "Excuse me." I said, "I think that's Jim Palmer up in first class." And I think she sort of nodded like, yeah, it is, or something like that. I'm like, is there any way you would allow me to go up and get his autograph? And she's like, well, I'll once we take off and the seatbelt signs are off, I'll let you go up quick. So we were only a few rows from where they, draw the curtain between first class and us peons. And so we take off, and as soon as the seatbelt sign, you can take them off, went off. She walked up and she said, make it quick." So I went up, and he was only a few rows into the first class from that screen, and he was just sort of resting there, with just relaxing. I think he had his eyes closed or something like that. And I went up to him and very politely I said, "Excuse me." I said, "Are you Jim Palmer?" And he looked up at me and he says, "Yes, I am." I said, "Would you be so kind as to give me your autograph?" And so I hand him this index card and pen, and he said, "Well, what's your name?" And I said, "It's John." And so I think the inscription of it was to John, either best wishes, I think it's best of luck, Jim Palmer, 1988. And he handed it back to me. And again, I didn't want to hang around too much. And at the time, I think he was doing some television play-by-play broadcasting for the Orioles. So again, just wanting to have some chit chat, I said, "Oh, so you flying into Baltimore to do a game?" Because this was the summertime. He says, "No, I'm just heading home," or something like that. And I said, "Well, it was very nice to meet you. Thank you very much." And he says, "You're welcome." And so I headed back. So that was my Jim Palmer story, meeting him. Now I bought just a normal 8x10. I have it all framed with that index card. I don't have it hanging up in the Boggs room here. Right now it's just dedicated to Boggs stuff since I don't have enough room. But if I ever get a larger room, I'm going to have that displayed. And if you look closely, you can make out that there's wording on the other side of that index card. But again, that's all I had at the time. So, all right, with that, I am going to turn the camera around and let's take a look at my Jim Palmer baseball cards. All right, I'm going to start off with the raw cards that I have, first starting off with his playing day cards and then getting into some of the modern inserts. And then I'm going to take a look at the few graded cards of Palmer that I have in my collection. The first one here is the oldest raw card I have. It's his 1977 Topps card. Now, this one I remember. Now, I started collecting in 1978, but I had an older cousin. He was probably maybe 4 years older than me. And he had a very small collection of cards, mainly 1977s. Didn't really want them, knew that I was into baseball cards, so he gave me the group of them. So the majority of my 1977 Topps cards, and there were turned out to be a lot of like Hall of Fame cards, and this is one of them. So this is one I picked up from my cousin. And we have this may be in the same exact group of cards from my cousin. I actually have two examples here. It's the 1976 Victory Leaders with Jim Palmer and Randy Jones. There's the back of it. So considering these were part of a kid's collection and my collection and stuff, they held up fairly well. I mean, I don't think they're necessarily high grade worthy, but still nice to have in my collection. And then here's a beater from my collection from 1978. My 78s and 79s, I told the story before that a lot of these unfortunately got some water damage. So my 78s are beat up from a kid, but I'll always cherish them. But this is the 1977 Victory Leaders, featuring two Hall of Famers. You got Steve Carlton and Jim Palmer. And here's my 1979 Topps. And I don't know if you can see in there, if you can see in the reflection there, there's a nice little crease or two going down the card there. But again, one I had as a kid, so it was centered really nice, but it's not in the best of conditions. And here's a 1980 that I have. Gotta love Jim Palmer's hair from the 80s. Classic. And there's the back of it. By the way, if you haven't seen any videos of Jim Palmer pitching, he had a very unique pitching style. He was like almost straight over the top in his delivery. You don't notice too many pitchers doing that. They always have at least some side angle, but he seemed to almost always go straight from the top. And I don't know if that helped with his curve or fastball. I'm not sure, but it definitely helped him out. Here is a very off-center 1981 Fleer. Now this one I didn't have as a kid. I'm trying to think how I picked this one up. I think it may have been thrown in an eBay auction win that they threw some Orioles in for a pickup I had. But yeah, very, very off-center. Here's a 1982 Donruss. James Alvin Palmer. Here's a 1983 Donruss. We have a 1983 Topps. And also from 1983 Topps, we have the Super Veteran. Obviously, it's not an insert. They didn't have inserts back then, but it's just part of the set, 1965 to 1983. There's some highlights of his career at the time. And then I also have this Orioles sort of like team leaders from 82. Jim Palmer had a 3.13 ERA and Eddie Murray, 316 batting average. So 2 Hall of Famers on that card. And yeah, and I thought on the back of these were the was the team checklist. There you see the Cal Ripken card number 163. Then from 1984, so I think this is from, I don't know if he had a standard issue card, but he had a American League active career victory leaders. So at the time, he was 268. Don Sutton, another Hall of Famer, was at 266, and Tommy John was at 248. So 1984 Topps. Here's another 1984. This is a Ralston Purina that I happened to find. And again, I'm sure I have some more Jim Palmer cards, but again, I am still working on trying to organize all my non-Wade Boggs cards. And so it's a matter of just looking through boxes at this point. I need to pull out like all Hall of Famers and organize them and stuff. Right now, it's just a hunt and peck. But there is the back of that one. And here are some more modern inserts. I think a couple of these are starting with the 2012 Topps. This is Mound Dominance. And this talks about the youngest pitcher to throw a World Series shutout, beating Sandy Koufax. The high-kicking right-hander fanned the Dodgers 3-4-5 hitters 2 times apiece. So it's hard to see what the stats are. For some reason, it's not showing up on the camera there. But he had 6 strikeouts, 3 walks, 4 hits, and 9 innings pitched. There you go. There you can sort of see it. There we go. All right, there's some his modern cards. Here's another one, I think from 2012 as well. This is the Golden Moments. No Pressure Kid. And let's see, does this talk about the Koufax game as well? Yes. Talks about the 66 World Series game. Going against Koufax. Here's a Golden Greats, I think from 2012 as well. There you can sort of see the foil there. Still smoking. Jim Palmer. There you have a sense of his delivery there, with the big overhand throw. You got let's see, what does this talk about? Right, 1973, I guess. Game one of the ALCS. This is a pretty cool one from 2013, Allen and Ginter. Like I said, I'm sure I have some Topps archives or other cards featuring Palmer, but I just didn't get around to looking through all of my boxes. See if I can get that focused a little bit better. There we go. And I got 2 copies of this. It's the 1969 highlight of the year. Returns from disabled list to no-hit athletics. August 13th, 1969. So let's see here. Returns from disabled list after spending 41 days on the disabled list with a torn back muscle. Let's see if that, yeah, there we go. That one, yeah. 23-year-old got help from great players by the Robinsons to no-hit Oakland 8-0. And then we have this pretty cool, heavy, this is one of those, manufactured patches, but that's a pretty thick card, and it's pretty heavy. That's a metal piece. I don't know if they call it a pin or what, but the 1975 ERA league leader. This one is not serial numbered. I don't know if there are other versions back then. This is from 2013 as well. 2.09 ERA in 1975. All right, so that's my raw collection, at least that, like I said, that I could find. And so here's some of the vintage cards I have. I have 5 of them. The oldest one is his 1974 Topps. Now here you can really see his sort of overhand delivery. He drops that straight down. This is a nice PSA 7 copy. Then we have his 1978, and I was able to pick up a 9 in that one. Again, I was trying for 78s, I was trying for 8s and 9s, except for some of the key rookies. But that's a nice looking card. And there is the back. Then we have also from 1978 that same 77 victory leaders, although this one is much better condition, a PSA 8. Then we have his 1979. This one is in an 8 as well. And finally, I have his 1980, also in a PSA 8. So there you go, my Jim Palmer showcase of the cards I have. Again, still trying to get his 1966 Topps rookie. I will get that one day. And who knows, I may do a Jim Palmer run. Again, in terms of the hobby, for the great pitcher that he was, I think his cards are fairly affordable. So I think it's something that I could eventually go after. Let me know what you think about my small little Jim Palmer collection. If you like this video, would appreciate a thumbs up. That's all I have for you. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.